Assalamu alaikum, hello, and welcome to all of our viewers here to Sports Extra on this particularly cold day in our nation's capital. Thank you all for joining us. I am your host, Sabeel Hazir. Today, we're joined by viewers of the show who have been watching for a long time will know. Ali Abbas on my right. Ali, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Sabeel.
And on my left, we have somebody who's been with us for a while now, Asif. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
All right, we will get straight to it with our top stories of the day. Today we will be discussing, to begin with, the Under-19 Asian Cup cricket that has been going on in Dubai. So we will be discussing in particular Pakistan's games with India on the weekend, which was a victory by 2 wickets for the Pakistani boys who have done brilliantly at this tournament so far. They are currently top of their group, winning 2 out of 2 games. And they have won, 3 out of 3 as they won today as well. So currently now top of their group with 3 wins, a perfect start. So we'll be discussing the game today and the game against India on the weekend. Next up, we have the Ashes. Some more cricketing news for those fans out there. The Ashes the third test of the Ashes has gone into its second day, which has finished as well, and England have continued their terrible form. There is no other way to put it. They are currently at the end of today 31 for 4 wickets lost, so they are not doing well at all. We will be discussing not only today's game but also the matches that have taken place and England's form and how well Australia have done, what has gone well, what has gone wrong. All of those things will be discussed. And finally, we will be wrapping up with some football, the English Premier League, the Boxing Day fixtures that happened and those that didn't. Obviously, we had 2 postponements due to COVID, which has taken up the tally for this month to over 10. It is now in double figures. So that is something that we have been discussing a lot on this show, but we will be mainly focusing on the games that did happen. Manchester City's dominance, extending their lead at the top of the table. Chelsea trying to catch up, and Liverpool, unfortunately, was one of the 2 games that were postponed. So with that, let us begin today by discussing our first story of the day, which is the Under-19 Asian Cup. Asif bhai, I want to throw this question to you first, because you and I had a disagreement about the Asian Cup after the Afghanistan match, because although Pakistan won, we were both agreeing on the fact that Pakistan needed to do better, although you thought perhaps a harsher approach was needed. I thought because they're young, a more gentle approach. But one thing that we both agreed upon was that against India especially, we need to see a reaction, and the players do far better than they fared against Afghanistan, even if they got the win. Now, 2 matches removed from that match against Afghanistan, how do you think the players have done, especially in that match against India and the one today?
Well, that's absolutely right that we had a disagreement over the performance. Yes, we enjoyed and we still enjoying the way youngsters played there against especially India. Whenever you play against India and you beat them even in under 16, under 19, any level, I think that you get some momentum, you get some confidence, and this is what happening with the Pakistan cricket team is. They beat in good game. That was a nail-biter game, and to be very honest, that you must talk about that what happened with the India side and the 230 around 240. It's not a good total, especially in 50 overs game in ODI. But Pakistan team, they played really good cricket. First, I'll talk about that guy Zishan Zamir from Karachi. We had discussed his performance before as well. Then especially in an Indian match in match against India, the way he bowled, he came up with a plan, took out 5 wicket haul, and then enjoyed his cricket. And this is the time there when you are playing at the under-19 level and you are enjoying victory against India and getting all the victories. And as Pakistan beat up today against UAE, that was good game. But once again, on the point of the disagreement, Sabeel, I must say that Pakistan team is in very good touch. It's very good for the Pakistan right before the World Cup that we're getting victories, especially team like against India. And I must talk about the guy who scored tremendous 87, and that was Mohammad Shehzad. He's from Dera Ismail Khan, and he scored a 50 against while playing against Australia under 16 in 2019, 2020 as well. So he's in very good touch. This is the right time that Pakistan qualified for the semi-final. And good thing is, in 3 matches, we have 3 different man of the matches. And this is what we want, that each player, they individually, they're playing well, they're performing well for the Pakistan, they're enjoying their cricket. And we have very good coaching staff. Ijaz Ahmed is there with them. Rao Iftikhar is with them as bowling coach. So in all fields, Pakistani team is doing really good. You talk about batting, you talk about fielding, you talk about their bowling. Everyone is playing their role. So I think that this is the best time when Asia Cup, because might be you are playing in semi-final against Bangladesh or Sri Lanka. So you have a very good momentum. Keep doing this and keep enjoying these victories. Keep enjoying your performance. There is no need any sort of pressure as Pakistan did in the T20 World Cup, that we beat India and then we enjoyed and we've enjoyed all the victories apart from semi-final. So now this is the time that if Pakistan have qualified for the semi-final, and if we got the victory as we have played the last 3 matches, I'm quite sure that we'll be standing as winner.
All right, Asif bhai, thank you very much for that very detailed description. Ali, if I can just throw it to you and we can build on that a little bit. So the World Cup for the under-19s is coming up as well quite shortly. It'll be there, I think, next month. So building on this, we've seen that we do have the talent. They can deliver. The match they played, as mentioned by Asif bhai, was a nail-biting encounter. We won it on the last ball with a boundary. That is the match against India. We had a young lad score 81 runs, another one get a 5-wicket haul, 3 different man of the matches, as was mentioned. So all of these different things, how do you think will fare against other youth setups, against these big international sides in the under-19 World Cup? And how do you think you then convert that into the senior side and get these players to become stars for the senior side as well? How you transition them over?
Yeah, well, Sabeel, I'm still stuck at the fact that you wanted a gentle approach towards these players, knowing you for quite a while now. But okay, coming back to your question, yeah, seriously, because I think maybe 2021 has been a year for Pakistan where our players have done an amazing job in these competitions. I mean, we had a very good 2020 World Cup, and I think whenever we do come up against India, there is sort of a mental blockage, and I feel that maybe the victory that they saw by our team in the T20 World Cup, it sort of just translated into our young players and how they've been taking the teams on. I mean, we were stuck at 2 out of 2, and obviously Kashif bhai just mentioned that it's 3 out of 3 now. I believe we beat Oman today after not setting a target, which was maybe the highest.
I think it was the UAE.
The UAE today, my bad. So I mean, not the biggest target out there. So I think we got around 220. So I mean, with results like these and the layout and the plan that we see that has come from Ramiz Raja, where he wants to start investing on youngsters from the age of 11 or 12, and then having these certain players coming in where he wants to maybe invest in them, not only financially but in terms of maybe setting up academies or an infrastructure where the youngsters would get developed. I mean, we have a plan now in place as well. We have players in Pakistan now who are doing well at the under-19 level. Hopefully we have a very good under-19 World Cup as well, and a few of these players maybe can just have a stake, if in case there are a few players just on the fringes, they can always come into the PSL. So good times ahead.
So yeah, hopefully good times ahead. So we've spoken a lot about this under-19 Asian Cup. We understand that the World Cup
could I add one?
Yes,
could I
add
one point? Look, whenever we criticize, the only thing is that we want betterment.
Yeah.
And we don't have any personal agenda. We support only good performances. And that's why I'm mentioning 2 names, that the Zishan Zamir and that Mohammad Shehzad. If they played well, they want applaud. But look, if our team is not doing well, so definitely we're sitting here, or each Pakistani, we should ask the question that what's happening, why we're not playing good. When you are playing good, you're enjoying. But you are not playing good, definitely criticism are there.
All right. Definitely when you do well, you should get plaudits and you should be criticized when you don't. Let's move on to our segment recap, which for this Asian Cup, which is that Pakistan has now reached the semi-finals after the win today. They are unbeaten and they are top of their group. So that is the segment recap for this segment. We will now move on to a package on the Ashes before we get to a detailed discussion. Let's have a look at that.
Got him! James Anderson breaks Day 2 of the third test in Melbourne came to an end, with England on 31-4 trailing by 51 runs in the third Ashes test, as it went through another batting collapse to undo superb performance of its bowlers, bringing Australia closer to winning the Ashes. James Anderson claimed 433 as England fought back commendably in the first two sessions of the day, dismissing Australia for 267, going into their second innings trailing by a mere 82 runs. However, the disaster final hour was more action-packed than what both teams would have anticipated, ruining England's best day of this Ashes series so far, as Australia closed in on victory at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. The Australian pace trio of Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc and Scott Boland decimated the batting order of the tourists, with their phenomenal bowling consistently being delivered at unplayable lengths, bagging 4 English wickets to reduce them to 31 for 4 in the 12 overs bowled. England captain Joe Root's fifth wicket partnership with Ben Stokes will be much crucial on the day 3, as he closed on 12 not out today. The end of the day was as dramatic as its start, as the England players were told to wait before travelling to the ground because of positive COVID-19 tests in the travelling party. Both sets of team will go under PCR tests prior to the third day play.
Well, there you have it. Now, Ali, I want to start with you, and I want to share something that made me laugh quite a lot. It's from Nick Holt at The Telegraph, who said, Joe Root called for a reaction from his players to their defeat in Adelaide, and they responded by serving up an even worse performance on a desperate first day of the third test. 2 days removed, now 2 days into that test, how do you think they've gone along? When they had some sort of a comeback mounting, Anderson brilliantly took 4 wickets in the first innings against Australia. How do you think they've started their second innings batting now, and what do you make of all the Ashes so far, considering the last time you and I spoke, we were both fairly certain 1 day into the first test that they were going to be whitewashing England, Australia, that is. So what do you think so far?
And funny enough, in the same test match after we did the show, so I went back and in the second innings, Joe Root and David Malan just took on the Australian bowlers, and I felt, okay, fine, maybe, me and Sabeel were just a bit too quick to judge, but, the English, they did not let us down. And it's, it's sad because England have been known as a very good red ball team, and like I was discussing this before the show as well, that in their resurgence and in their pursuit of becoming a very good team for the shorter formats where they have won the World Cup and they have featured in the semi-finals and the final of the T20 World Cup, they've let go of the test cricket, and we all do know exactly how much of a prestige test cricket does hold in England, how they are one of the few countries that still remain where people do watch test cricket. So seeing this kind of approach where you have players like Rory Burns and Asif Ahmad, right, who are opening the batting, who have no technique, who are just way behind the international standards when it comes to playing test cricket. I mean, just look at David Warner for an example. And then other than that, you have certain players who just cannot keep it in themselves. I mean, Joss Butler, he showed a lot of determination in sticking in there, but you do associate him as someone who is a very good basher of the ball, right? And you have Ben Stokes, who's always in and out of the team. So there is no balance in the team. I mean, there is no shortage of quality, but there is no balance in the team as well. I mean, Jimmy Anderson, even at this age, he picked up 4 wickets and took a brilliant catch. I mean, he's just rolling back the years by what he's doing. So it's sad to see that, and this thing is going to get worse and worse, and I hope England do manage a fight back, but I just don't see it.
Asif, let's talk about that. He's raised a very good point. In their pursuit for success in the shorter format of the game, have England just set aside any ambitions in Test cricket? Have they really let a very prestigious form of the game pass them by in pursuit of those trophies in the 50 over and 20 over format of the game?
Well, look, as Ali said in the last, that he's still hopeful and is still positive that England have the quality that they could bounce back. But you know that what happens is that their main strikers like James Anderson and apart from David Malan, Joe Root, and no one is playing up to the mark. The reason is why, as Ali mentioned really nicely, that they're pursuing now white ball cricket, ODI, T20, their league, 100 balls league, and stuff like that, IPL, and some of the players in PSL as well. But what's happening is that Johnny Bairstow and Joss Butler, they're very good with the white ball. But when you're playing against Australia, in Australia, this is very difficult to handle. Pat Cummins, Mitchell Marsh, and Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc, and then Nathan Lyon. This is the main reason why James Anderson is not bowling up to the mark, though he got 4 wickets. And before the program, as we were discussing, that Joe Root is not happy, and of course how he could be, because you lost 2 matches, and on the third match you are really close to lost the third as well. So those hopes are there, but I want the players like Hasib rightly said that without any technique, and you are playing against Mitchell Starc, Pat Cummins, you should be coming up with really strong nerves. But unfortunately, they are not able to perform well. Like Hasib, Crawley, and all the pressure is going on David Malan, Joe Root, and somehow Ben Stokes as well. But Butler, Johnny Besto, Crawley, and rest of the player, they're not doing their performance up to the mark. So that is why I'm quite sure that this series belongs to Ashes. This Ashes belongs to Australia, and hopes are there, but still very difficult.
Do we think, Ali, then that there is too much pressure on certain players and other people are not picking up their fair share of the work and letting these moments pass them by when they really could be contributing? Like, for example, in England, is there too much pressure on Root? Now, he's failed to convert another 15 to century. 9 times this has happened in Australia for him. But is there too much pressure on him? And how is his captaincy being treated by the members of the camp?
I mean, when it comes to Joe Root, we discussed this in the previous show as well, that he did come into the Ashes being, not, I won't the central figure, but being a part of the allegation that struck England and Yorkshire in particular. And Joe Root, despite him not being blamed for anything, you know, he was a part of it, and I'm sure it would have played on his mind. I personally feel that the first thing England should be doing after this series is taking the captaincy from Joe Root and giving it to maybe someone like Ben Stokes. I think you're supposed to use your best batsman for just batting and getting you out of trouble, because I do hope he gets out at 99 so Mohammad Yusuf's record stays intact. Okay, he does not get any more runs than 99, but on the other hand, I think it's important that they change the captaincy, and just like they did with the white ball cricket in 2015, it's time to maybe, you know, for the director to take over.
Can I ask you, who would you bring, who wants you to be a new captain?
I would go for Ben Stokes. I was listening to Brad Haddon the other day on a podcast, and he was mentioning...
No, but the question is that he's not good with the bat so far in this series.
Yeah. I mean, he's an all-rounder.
If you want to become a captain, if you want to become a leader, that your performance does matter, and this is what's happening with the...
100% it does, but this is a debate for another day, the captaincy of all of these national sides. Let's do a quick segment recap of what we've just discussed in the Ashes. Now, we know that Australia are leading the series currently 2-0. They've gone into the third day of the third test with chances of winning this one as well. They have had a brilliant bowling performance. They have had poor batting form from England, which has obviously contributed to this demise. They're probably going to get whitewashed in this series, and Australia will most likely clinch it after this test, and we will see what happens next. But on that note, let's move on to our final segment of the day, which is the English Premier League, and our brilliant researchers have prepared a package for you. Let's have a look.
The two early fixtures of the Boxing Day lineup between Liverpool versus Leeds and Wolves against Watford were cancelled due to COVID-19 outbreaks in the squads of Leeds and Watford. However, the Premier League served up its customary feast of football on Boxing Day with 22 goals across 4 early games.
He's quicker than Anderson, and Harry Kane's in! Goal for Tottenham Hotspur, it's Harry Kane! He strikes here with authority. Cancelo. Nacho pressed that ball through, and Leicester have pulled another goal back.
The two North London teams registered wins, with Arsenal routing last place Norwich 5-0.
By Ødegaard, here's Tierney, he's going to shoot, and he's going to find the far corner. Oh, Saka, well, almost out of nothing, he just manoeuvred his body.
Whereas Tottenham beat Crystal Palace 3-0, aided by a foolish red card earned by Wilfried Zaha.
Just a few minutes. Come to a premature end. Lucas Moura, brilliant.
Chelsea, on the other hand, managed to secure 3 points against Aston Villa. Lukaku was brought off the bench at half-time with the game tied at 1-1 after Reece James' own goal was cancelled out by a Jorginho penalty for Chelsea. Lukaku took 11 minutes to find the net after. Later, Lukaku's run then led to Chelsea winning another penalty that Jorginho converted in stoppage time to wrap up the game.
So there you have it, folks. Boxing Day fixtures, as always, delivered. Action-packed day, full of goals. Unfortunately, 2 games were postponed due to COVID, but we've spoken a lot about that last week. So let's just focus on the action that did take place. Ali, I want to ask you, let's start off with Manchester City. Now, a lot of individual mistakes by Leicester in their game against City, but you have to give them credit to the league leaders. They have done brilliantly. They almost let Leicester back into the game, but that's their dominance, that they can just go and score goals at any point. 6 goals in a Premier League match for one team is an absurd number, especially when the momentum of the game has shifted. So clearly they have the quality. Do you think anybody will be able to catch them? And what did you make of their game against Leicester City?
Obviously, I think Manchester City played fantastic. They were playing amazing football like they always do. I mean, ever since Pep has taken over, he has turned them into beasts. I mean, they were winners before, but the elite mentality that they have now, it hasn't been seen in the Premier League for a long, long time, and you have to give it to the manager and the players. But, I mean, I'm no Premier League manager, and I'm not saying I've found the solution to how Manchester City are going to be beaten, but every time I've seen them struggle is when a team actually takes them on. In the second half, Leicester were like, they had nothing to lose. They got forward and they ended up scoring 3
Ali,
goals.
do you not think that, sorry, just to cut you off, but to add on that, Leeds tried that against big teams and they got demolished, and they've been getting thrashed trying to do that. So clearly, yes, you go and you try to take the game to these big boys, but the way Leicester do it, obviously they made individual errors in that game, but surely that's a better approach where you still have to give them the respect that they are a lot better and more dominant, so you will sit back a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, Leeds is, I mean, obviously Leeds are going through a tough period and you can't really blame them, but when it comes to Leicester or an Aston Villa or West Ham or even an Arsenal, okay, I mean, I'm sure Arsenal fans would not like me mentioning that in the same bracket, but you know what I mean, because I think, I don't know, for some reason, if you sit back against Man City, then Riyad Mahrez, Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva, I mean, you just name it. They have so much quality up front to just dissect any sort of defense, any sort of midfield, and you can have 10 players in the box and you will have Riyad Mahrez just curling one in. I mean, the first goal scored yesterday was by Kevin De Bruyne because everyone else was just busy marking Raheem Sterling or Bernardo Silva, and De Bruyne found himself in space and scored with his left foot while he's right-footed himself. So, I mean, there is no way that you just defend against Man City because it's not going to work. The only way to do it is, unless you have Jose Mourinho as a manager in an Inter Milan team, you can just stay back. But if you don't, then you just attack them, you try to take the game to them like Leicester did in the second half, and you just hope that you can get away with the result. And I do expect teams like West Ham, Aston Villa, Leicester, and even Arsenal to do a similar job like that. So, yeah, for me, I think you should just take them on, and I don't see anyone beating them other than Liverpool because they're only 3 points behind City, so it's going to be an exciting title race.
Well, 3 points if they win their game in hand.
The fans of Liverpool are really happy after your comments,
But Fazil, he's giving them hope, isn't he? That there is a chance, obviously, they have a game in hand, Liverpool, and they're 6 points behind, but if they win their game in hand, they're only 3. So there is a chance. Elsewhere, what happened is Chelsea against Villa, Romelu Lukaku coming on and just stealing the show, getting a goal, winning a penalty, just powerful, strong running in behind, and just an immense presence to have on the pitch. And then the 2 North London teams, both thrashing their opposition. Obviously, Wilfried Zaha in the Palace game having one of the worst red cards I've seen in recent times in terms of just immaturity. But let's finish that off there. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us. Asif Bhai and Ali Abbas, thank you so much for taking part. Let us finish with our segment recap. So what we've discussed in the Premier League today is we've discussed City's dominance, how many goals they've scored in recent times, as they always do, being a dominant team. The 2 games that were postponed, unfortunately, Liverpool and Leeds, Watford and Wolverhampton were called off due to COVID concerns, but it's not the first time that's happened. Lukaku's return, which obviously hopefully will make a full return soon, but coming off the bench to change the game. And then Conte with Spurs is still unbeaten in the Premier League. Yes, there have been cancellations of games and postponements, but in the Premier League they are doing quite well under Conte, especially at home. So that is your segment recap. To all of you who tuned in, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate your viewership at Sports Extra. From myself, Sabeel, Hazir, the whole team, we are grateful for your viewership and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much.